Robert Uithoven, welcome to KTNV. Campaign manager for Nevadans for Freedom. Where do you come up with these names?
It's very, very well described organization that we're running, John. Thanks for having me on the show.
Why is that a good description for the organization, seriously?
Well, I think most people in this state of Nevada, I mean, it's always had, even through the partisan tangles that we've had, a pretty strong libertarian bent, a constitutional conservative fervor to it, independent, rugged. We don't like a lot of outside people telling us how to do things, and I think as we move further along in this campaign and people get educated up on the issues and the complexities of question one, I think we can win enough people over to defeat it. We're going up against Michael Bloomberg, as you know, who has limitless money, and that's tough to deal with in a campaign where there's a lot of noise out there, presidential race, as we talked about, very competitive congressional races all the way down the ballot. But we're going to get as much attention brought to this initiative as we can and explain what we see are the problems with it and the effect it has on your personal liberty and freedom.
Let's talk about that, because the Nevadans for Freedom essentially is the NRA, which suddenly you're making out to be some kind of bankrupt organization with no money. You got a little bit of money yourself, but we'll get to that. You mentioned that it's complicated. Question one, this is a background check initiative, and that, you know, and the proponents say it's common sense, everybody's for background checks. Most of the polling we did here at KTNV showed huge support, I think 2/3 here. They used to wear the 86%
right
around in the legislature. When it got through the legislature, vetoed by Governor Sandoval. But maybe it's not so complicated. Maybe just you guys want to complicate it. This essentially would get people who are not licensed firearms dealers. They would have to go get a background check for a private party transaction done by a licensed dealer for a nominal fee. There's a lot of exemptions. Law enforcement gets exemptions. I could sell to my brother. That's exempted. In fact, it took a lot of the problems that Governor Sandoval had in his veto message and tried to get rid of those. So why is it so complicated? You know, people with the NRA can't support this.
I think the problem is, if you and I are hunting partners, we go out, target practice, and it's not just established shooting ranges. This is one of the complexities of the initiative, where it speaks of target ranges, shooting ranges. We have 48 million acres of BLM land throughout this state. 7 of every 10 acres is owned and regulated by the federal government. If we go out and we shoot and you have a problem with your gun and we're regular shooting buddies, I know I'm a law-abiding citizen gun owner, you are too, and you want to use my gun for target practice, that becomes a crime. And I think a lot of people...
Not if you just want to use it for target practice.
If we're out hunting...
You have to sell it to them, though.
These are for private party transfers.
Right.
And if I want to let you use my weapon, take ownership of my weapon, have it in your possession, do we want the county sheriff showing up and making arrests? Do we want them under... You know, I think right now, given the resources, the limited resources that we have in law enforcement, I think this presents a huge challenge. And I'll say that there's a reason why the majority of the sheriffs have come out. Not one single sheriff. These are the people on the front lines in our state on law enforcement, defending our communities. Not one has come out in support of question one. As a matter of fact, I think 15 have come out in opposition. One's neutral.
But one's neutral, let's be clear, it's Joe Lombardo from Clark County. Of course the rural guys are going to be against this. Why do you
dismiss them for being rural guys?
I'm not dismissing them. I'm saying rural Nevada, this is one of the interesting things about this, the whole rural versus urban thing that's going on in this state. You know, it's essentially 3 different states that we live in. You and I have been around for a while. In rural Nevada, the Second Amendment, I think, is cherished, is considered more sacrosanct and impenetrable than it would be maybe in the urban areas. That's true of most states, but especially in Nevada, and you alluded to it at the beginning, the whole libertarian ethos out there. So I'm not surprised at those sheriffs. There's a lot of law enforcement groups, though, you'll have to acknowledge, who are for question one.
I think there are a lot of union groups that have different motives in this election for a different turnout of certain elected officials who will not be friendly.
You're making it partisan now. This shouldn't be a partisan issue.
I'm not making it partisan. I think there are union bosses in and around this state that want a certain election result, dealing with candidates more so than the actual ballot initiatives. They see this ballot initiative as a way to generate turnout for their preferred elected officials. And so I would say that these elected sheriffs in these communities across the state, and by the way, yes, Sheriff Lombardo here in Clark County has come out saying that he is neutral on this issue, but the undersheriff recently came out and said this will do nothing to stop crime. It'll do nothing that the proponents of this initiative say that it will do, that the real issue is mental health, and we can all agree that it is, and that criminals, if you're a criminal, a lifelong criminal, or even somebody who intends to act your first criminal act with a gun, and there's already hundreds of gun laws on the books, do you think the passing question 1 is going to, and under the light of day, make this criminal say, I'm not going to do it?
Okay, let's parse a couple of things that you said, because I think they are legitimate issues. First, NRA types such as yourself always say the issue is really mental health, not gun control. Why can't it be both?
Because I think making it both, making it further restrictions on law-abiding citizens is wrong. I think making you or I into criminals is wrong. I think an airman out at Nellis Air Force Base who's about to be deployed and wants to store his weapons with a buddy while he's overseas and thinks that they might not be protected well enough in his house, I don't think that guy should automatically become a criminal when he gets back from serving his country.
These examples you're using, you're not positive. The hunting example in this one, and the NRA has been very good about bringing up potential complications. You don't know that those would be crimes under this.
I do know that they will be, and we've had law enforcement officers in the state say that it will be, who are veterans themselves.
But they wouldn't interpret the law. Let's be honest. I mean, the court, if this passed, would say what's a crime and what's not. So I guess what I'm wondering is, yes, there are a lot of these mass shootings, there's emotional appeals you have to go up against, right, in terms of the people who want this. A lot of the folks who got those guns, a lot of these perpetrators, got them illegally, so this would not affect them at all. On the other hand, a lot of bad people could be prevented. The so-called non-law-abiding citizens could be prevented from getting guns if they went through a background check first. Why not, even if it's not the majority, but even if it's a substantial minority, why not accept that?
So we have to subject all of society who has a fundamental constitutional right to possess a firearm to these new, onerous, and expensive. There's fees attached to this.
Expensive. I mean, it's not prohibitive.
Hey, listen, it could be for some people. I mean, what somebody's fee might be, more than they're willing to pay. And I think the goal is to make these things so onerous. And so why do you blanket go after all the law-abiding citizens when you're targeting less than 1%, according to the Department of Justice, less than 1% of people who commit gun crimes acquired them through these means that the proponents of this initiative say that they're going after.
But the verbiage you're using, you're saying targeting. Well, I mean, we have to subject ourselves to regulations all the time, right? Why, no matter
and
what.
Gun owners do.
And,
I mean, look at how many gun laws there are in the books today.
That is true, but I guess what is the harm, are you saying, in background checks with the exemptions that they're talking about? They could prevent mentally ill people from getting guns. They could prevent people who have been who have committed crimes from getting guns. There are people that you don't want protected, even as a spokesman for the NRA. They could prevent them from getting guns. You're saying that even though that could happen, you could prevent bad people from getting guns. You're against this.
I don't think the proponents can show that as many onerous regulations as they try to put in place, and however expensive they make it, that you actually prevent somebody from getting a gun. If a criminal wants to get his hands on a gun, and even if they're able to successfully fund millions of dollars in the state to pass question 1, somebody is going to acquire a weapon who intends to do harm. Now, again, there's more law enforcement backing this effort. These are the people that would have to be tasked with going out and enforcing question 1 should it pass. I believe the majority of district attorneys in the state will be voting against this. I believe the majority of sheriffs in the state will be voting against this. And I think gun owners and non-gun owners alike who just agree with the constitutional freedom that is afforded to them will view this as a further encroachment on their rights to own a firearm.
Isn't that the real issue, though, here for the NRA? It's not these examples that you're bringing up and that I'm constantly bombarded with in my inbox of possible complications.
I'm glad we're getting to you.
You are. It's the so-called nose under the tent argument. That's what really worries the NRA, that this, even if this is not significant, you can blow all the smoke you want, this is not that significant, but you're worried that this is the first step in terms of gun confiscation or whatever, and there are scare tactics by both sides in this. I'm not going to say it's just endemic to the NRA. That's really what concerns you, isn't it?
Well, it is. It definitely is an encroachment towards the issue of a full national gun registry, which I think worries a lot of people. But no, this is meaningful. It is encroachment and it's meaningful. It will make criminals out of otherwise law-abiding citizens, and that is our problem.
You don't think that's the intent, though, do you?
I think the intent, the cynic in me sees the intent being very political and helping drive turnout for certain elected officials who will really cause significant damage to the Second Amendment rights of people in this state. But I do believe that there are people out there who believe that passing question 1 will solve crime, will stop a criminal, that somehow all these other hundreds of gun laws on the books, that they'll ignore those, but somehow if question 1 goes through, they're going to see the light of day and stop being a criminal and stop trying to acquire guns through illicit ways. And that's the way they're doing it today. That's the way they'll do it if question 1 passes. I think this is a protection of ordinary citizens, law-abiding gun owners, which we have many in this state. And I think as people get to know more about this argument and hear more about this debate, they'll be able to punch the holes through the argument of the proponents of this issue. And they'll see what Bloomberg's doing in other states. You know, for instance, in Washington, they passed this in the state of Washington. And it was one of those campaigns where, hey, this is just, as they always say, common sense, gun reform. This will help restrict crime. It'll lessen crime in our state. Trust me, it's not an encroachment issue. Just help us pass this initiative and we'll stop. Well, they passed it and they're right back on the ballot again with more and more and more. They always want more. And as they always want more restrictions on law-abiding gun owners, you don't see the numbers of crime drop in these states, in these areas where there's the most restrictive gun laws. We can sit here and talk all day about different states and how restrictive their gun laws are.
But this is not that restrictive. Again, that's why I'm trying to get to what your real objection is. Your real
restrictive.
objection is that this is just the first of many laws that you're afraid will be passed. Because you cannot argue that background checks with all the exemptions that they have in the initiative, and people can go read it for themselves. Oh, but there's about, I don't know,
Immediate
half a
family,
dozen.
what if we're cousins? I mean, it doesn't matter if... It doesn't matter if you are a brother of mine or a very close friend who might be even closer to me in a relationship than a brother.
Right.
I mean, if we're going out and we're shooting, why should this initiative pass to define what our relationship is and whether or not you're trustworthy with my weapon? It puts a cloud of skepticism. This is not
designed for that. There's not going to be sheriffs hiding behind the
doesn't
trees
matter what it's
to get
designed for,
hunters.
John.
But that's not what's going on here. This is for people who don't know each other. They're going to have a transaction. They agree, okay, we're going to go to a licensed dealer. He's going to do a background check. You know they don't take that long. And it could, wait a second, I didn't know that you had been in a mental hospital. I didn't know you had committed a crime in Alabama. Wouldn't that be a good thing to know?
The intentions are irrelevant. They really are. The real impact is what's relevant. The intentions of the proponents of this and Michael Bloomberg, How
many times are you going to say Bloomberg's name during this interview? A lot.
Yes, I don't know if he's taken up shop in Ely
in case people don't know why you're saying that, Michael Bloomberg did help start this group, and he's funded it. It's called It's called Every Town, and they are funding this, and so you're using him, outside interest, Michael. Who cares?
I think a lot of Nevadans do. I don't think there's a number of issues we can get into with Bloomberg. I think there's a lot of beliefs he's had over the years.
You're not bringing up big gulps or something,
yeah, you know. But there are real life implications of this bill. It is serious, and a lot of people. We had an office opening in Reno last night. We're opening an office here in Las Vegas this evening, and we're getting the word out. And as people show up, and they're not all NRA members. I've met a lot of people along the way, and they're not all Republicans. There's independents, there are Democrats who are gun owners and cherish their rights, and they don't want this cloud of skepticism that they are somehow a criminal if they violate some of the obscure language in question 1.
And any Democratic elected officials supporting this?
I think we will have some.
You will?
Yeah, I'm certain that we will have some voting with us. It's touchy in a year, and you know this covering politics as you do. And we've seen Democrats who have taken pro-Second Amendment positions before in this state get targeted in primaries. It's unfortunate, but it's politics. It happens.
Right.
But I've talked to a number of Democrats in this state that I think share the concerns that we are expressing in this campaign. Whether or not they come out and publicly support it, I don't know. I think we will have some. I know that we have some votes today, and I think it's a bipartisan issue. I really do. And you know, the other side, they have their list, their advisory committee, and they have some Republicans on there too. So I think as people look into question 1 and look at the challenges that it creates, and for those who are on the front lines, the sheriffs, the elected sheriffs. And yes, they might be in smaller rural communities, but they are still the frontline guy out there having to enforce the law. And for these sheriffs to come out in huge numbers as they have to say, we don't need this, this isn't the problem, this isn't going to solve the problem, I think is a very powerful statement.
I'd start talking about 15 of them being in rural Nevada again, but you're going to try to hurt my numbers in the rurals. You know who's not on the list? And this occurred to me right before I came here to interview you, is Governor Sandoval, who vetoed the background check bill in the legislature a few sessions ago. He hasn't taken a position on this yet, has he?
I don't think he's taken a public position on question 1 yet, but we're certainly communicating with him
You think he'll support
other
it?
elected officials.
You think he'll come out?
I'm not going to speak for the governor. I think he has been. I think he's been a very strong friend of everyone in Nevada and their constitutional rights under the Second Amendment.
But you don't have him yet.
I'll let the governor speak for the governor when he's
I'm
ready
trying to get that, and so maybe we'll have that by the time it's there. Finally,
Great.
let's talk about money. How much money is going to be spent on this? I mean, you're talking about Bloomberg. Yes, they do have a lot of money. Every town does have a lot of money. What, is it going to be a $10 million campaign, $15 million? Seriously.
You know, he is certainly capable of spending that kind of money out
So
of
are you.
state into Nevada.
So are you.
Well, you know, look.
How much TV time have you bought?
We have reserved TV time to try to stay competitive with what
$5 million
Bloomberg has.
$5 million
A little bit less than that, but
Okay.
we're definitely in 7 digits. And that's thanks to the generous support of the tens of thousands of NRA members we have here in this state. It is a grassroots campaign. We do have offices, like I said. People are making calls. We're going door to door. There will be an advertising component on this that you'll probably see here on this station. And,
Good to know.
And
Can you overcome
it'll
that,
be,
whether it's
expensive.
2/3 or 80%? Can you? I mean, these initiatives, they often start off really high and then they come
Right.
down. But you think you can overcome that? That's a big number.
It is, and I've been involved in campaigns where you have the luxury of having more than your opponent, whether it's a candidate or a cause, an initiative petition. And I've been on the side of many campaigns where you're underfunded and you got to find creative ways to win. I think because of our membership base here in Nevada and their ability to communicate with their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers about question 1. Look, I think a lot of people, we talked about the cynicism of politics and why some of these things end up on a swing state ballot, to drive up numbers in a presidential year. I think it can end up helping us. I think
it will help you. I think that whole argument is crazy. There
Yeah.
are many more people who are Second Amendment enthusiasts, who are single issue voters, who will come out to vote against this. People on the other side, I don't think it's as passionate an issue for them. So if that's the reason they're doing it, that's a huge political miscalculation.
Yeah. So I think we still have a lot of time left in this campaign, but I think you'll start seeing us on the airwaves very soon. And I would just ask your viewers to go to Vote No Question 1 if they want more information. VoteNoQuestion1.com and get the true facts about this initiative. We're running against a bumper sticker campaign. We say it. And
if I let you keep going, you're going to come up with an 800 number in a second. Robert Uithoven, a pleasure
might have
having you. Robert Uithoven, it's a pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, John.
All right.